What's up, everybody? How we doing? I don't know how many people are here actually, because I can't see the thing yet. Um, but
Oh, is there some way for me to see the thing, to see the chat?
if you want to go, in fact, if anybody wants to participate in ye old chat, please feel free to go to AANE's um, live stream video that is posted on YouTube right now. Whereas we have four people who have joined us already. There is nothing.
Welcome.
There's nothing in the chat yet, but welcome. Yes, thanks for being here. It's so good. Hey, what's up? My name's Liv. Um, and welcome to Infinity and Beyond. Um, we here at AANE are like to put on this stream as an interactive um, community event for folks in our community where we discuss issues that matter to us, the autistic community. Um, and so, with open minds and opinions and questions, let's get moving. Today, I am joined by my excellent coworker, Bob Waters, who is an authority figure on the intersection of autism and OCD, which will be our topic for tonight. Really excited to get this interview going, but I'm just going to mention a few more things while we're here. If this is your first time joining AANE for anything, I'll let you know that we are an organization that provides services to autistic folks, their families, and the folks and professionals that support them. You can click the link in the description to learn more. Like I said, my name is Liv. I've worked at AANE for 7 years now, and I've been diagnosed with autism since I was 6, so that's 24 years now. I am published on the intersectionality of being both queer and autistic. I am a trans woman myself. My pronouns are she, they, and I'm excited to get everything going here. So yeah, Bob, what's up? How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. It's a Monday, but it's a very nice Monday.
Yeah.
Um, I love this time of year. I love the angles of the sunlight in the afternoon and the morning as well. Um, I walked past some nice tulips earlier today. The apple blossoms are starting out. It's a good time.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love that.
Yeah.
Um, Wow, what a cool thing. And yes, I agree. It's such a like I don't know about you, but like I just feel like so much better once spring starts. Like it's classic like
Mhm.
my seasonal is left in the cold months. So,
Yeah. No, I feel the same way. And for those of you out there, thinking, oh, well, autistic people and sunlight. I know several autistic or neurodivergent folks who absolutely adore the cold and adore darkness. You gotta talk to an individual person to know their stuff. But me and Liv have that thing in common. Love the heat, love the sunlight, love I don't know, just springtime is coming around.
I would live further south if that area of the country didn't want to do well. That's a topic for another day. Anyway, um, Bob, tonight,
Yes,
our topic is the intersection of autism and OCD. Um,
that's right.
if you wouldn't mind, I have like two questions to just start us off with, and the first is,
Hmm.
and you can answer either of these in whichever order you feel like. Um, I feel like so. One is I feel like there's a lot of misconceptions about what OCD is. So I would
Hmm.
love for you to just describe that for us, and if you want to pepper in how it works with autism while you're doing that, that is excellent. And the second question is. What is your experience with OCD? Um, so
Totally.
yeah, if all you.
Yeah, so yeah, thank you. So welcome everyone. Welcome to the live stream. My name is Bob Waters. I use he him pronouns and I have been working here at A&E for almost 3 years. Um I was diagnosed with autism when I was 11 and I was diagnosed with OCD when I was 22. I'm 30. That is now 8 years ago, which is totally bananas. Um and I also, some of you might have seen, I published a short piece on the intersection of autism and OCD in our May newsletter. So if you guys want to check that out, should be somewhere on our website. And yeah, OCD. So do you mind just saying that first question again, Liv? Oh,
Yeah,
misconceptions.
indeed.
Yeah. Um,
What is and what isn't?
so yeah, this is actually an important thing because uh, I started experiencing symptoms of what I later came to know as OCD when I was about 16 or 17, and maybe even like 12 or 13, but like really intensely around age 17. But I wasn't diagnosed until I was 22. And the reason for that was because I had a very explicit conception of what a person with OCD was that wasn't me. But then when I was 22 and things sort of spilled over into being like really dysfunctional for me, I was like, "Oh, what? This thing is that?" And I would like, Google things and be like, "Wait, but that's me. But that's not that image I have, right?" So the image that I had before I was 22 was sort of the celebrity that we all sort of think of as Howie Mandel, who was the host of Deal or No Deal for those of us who remember that show. He's also the host of America's Got Talent, and he's been very open with having OCD in his interviews and his probably his memoir if he has one. And that was the image I had. Oh, a person with OCD is someone who's scared of germs and washes their hands all the time. And for many people with OCD, that is a strong component, right? I was like, oh, somebody washes their hands all the time. But what I didn't understand was that OCD isn't actually about the specific compulsions. It's not about the specific actions that you do. It's about the relationship that you have with doubt, with anxiety, with like a trauma response of some kind or another. The relationship that you have with your emotions, with your experiences, right? The relationship between your amygdala and your frontal lobe, if you want to think of it in neuroscience. So your frontal lobe is where all of the mental imagery of life sort of pops up. It's who you are, as far as, oh, like I close my eyes and I remember this thing and this thing and this thing, and I'm making these decisions. And your amygdala is sort of the fear, like, oh no, like here's the adrenal glands, like you're in danger, like do this thing right now. And OCD at its core is an intolerance of uncertainty and a direct association of uncertainty and doubt with danger. So there are things in life, there's uncertainty everywhere in the world, right? Like, I don't know what I'm going to have for dinner tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to, you know, stub my toe when I stand up after our live stream this evening. I don't know if I'm going to have a heart attack and die, right? Those three things sound very different from each other, but at their core, they're the same thing. I don't know something that's going to happen. It's uncertainty. And for most things in life, we just sort of have uncertainty and we go, oh, yeah, uncertainty. Like, I could suddenly get like an itch on my neck in 10 minutes. That's something that's possible. But that doesn't really bother me because like, oh yeah, I get itches sometimes. Maybe I'll scratch it. Maybe it'll be 10 minutes during our live stream and I will feel weird scratching it and just hold it there, whatever. And so that doesn't really bother me. But with OCD, uncertainties that tap into very specific things that you strongly believe are essential to your safety, right? So all of us have things that we hold very dear, right? So in OCD discourse, you'll hear about themes, right? So one of the themes is like, oh, contamination. I'm afraid that I'm going to be somehow negligent, and because of that, either I'm going to get sick, or like my children, or my parents, or my pets, people I care about very much, are going to get sick. Um, that's one thing, but there's other areas of uncertainty as well. So like a classic one is, you leave the house for the day and then, oh, what if I left the stove on? For a lot of people, they would have the thought, what if I left the stove on? And it might be like, oh, it's I don't think I did. I mean, no, that's fine. And they like leave. But if you have a very strong belief that you are directly responsible for the safety of your house, for all of your neighbors, and for like, and not just like responsible, but like it is crucial. Like your biggest, worst fear in the whole world is you're a kind, wonderful person, but you forgot to turn off the stove. The stove is going to burn down your apartment. It's going to kill all of your neighbors. You are going to be charged with negligent homicide. You will go to prison. And all the vicious imagery of that is going to like erupt in your head when you walk out the door, right? So if you walk out the door and you have that moment, oh, what if I turned off the stove? Your entire central nervous system is going to just explode if that's something that you care about and believe about very strongly. Like you walking out the door and walking to your car will have the same physiological experience of I'm going to go to prison and never see my family ever again if I do not go inside and check the stove. Right? That's a big thing. You feel it in your fingertips, you feel it in your spine. Um, Something that my therapist taught me to do was to find places in your body where it's happening because big imagery is going to flood you when you're like having an episode, right? So you're going to think, oh my god, did I turn off the stove? Like, oh my god, did I is that memory of me checking the stove from just now or was it my memory of when I did this yesterday, right? And for someone for whom they don't practice like OCD treatment skills, they go, "Oh, well, I have to go check." And they go back and check, and then they leave the house and then they have that thought that I just described. Well, was that memory of me checking just now from just now or was it when I did it yesterday? I have to get this right. This uncertainty is intolerable 100%. Not 95%, not 98%, not 99.9999992%, 100% intolerable. I have to know for certain or else. And so that person might go back in and check 10 times every single time. And then after the 10th time, they're like, okay, I've done it 10 times. That's the number. That's the number. I've done it 10 times. That's the safe number. I can get in the car and go. And if they do that every single time they leave the house, the amount of time that takes like takes away from your life. Um, so that's one example. And those are like like the classic examples of OCD, right? You know, washing your hands, checking the stove, um classic, but like there's a lot that are less talked about because it's very sort of taboo, things that people have very strong feelings about. So different things having to do with sexuality, different things having to do with violence or murder, different things having to do with immorality of various kinds. A very common experience is someone believing very intensely, well, I'm a good person. And a good person knows that they're a good person 100% of the time. That right there is like a crack for such a disorder where you have sort of an allergic reaction to uncertainty, right? So uncertainty is just sort of a fact of life. It's just sort of out there, right? Like, I don't know if I'm going to get an itch in 10 minutes. I don't know if there's going to be a gamma burst from a star that comes from outer space and just kills. That could happen. It could happen, right? But I go through life because that's not something that sort of debilitates me. I go through life knowing that that's possible, but still making decisions based on what I care about, my values, my goals. Like I value, doing the work that I do here at A&E of building the community here. I value practicing the different kinds of art that I like to practice. I value taking care of my health and my body and my mind. I value spending time with my friends and loved ones. So those are things that I care about and I value. So I know, even though there's that uncertainty about the gamma burst or the meteor, that is possible. but I'm still doing things that I care about because that's what I want to do. I'm living my life based on my goals and my values instead of reacting to a fear of death and trying to prove that that's not going to happen, right? Um, but it's different for everyone. Another thing that my therapist told me is that another thing to sort of explore is how there are like obsessions and compulsions that you see, maybe that you read about other people experiencing, that for you are like, oh well, I don't really care about that. That's kind of silly. Maybe you might say to yourself. But no, but the thing that I'm obsessed about, the thing that I have to prevent from happening is cataclysmic, right? But how that other person who I just talked about would see what I'm obsessed about and be like, "Oh, that's fine. Like you don't have to care about that." But when you're like in it, you're in it. You're in it. People's fear centers in their brains like dominate their choices, as many of us know. Even if you don't have OCD, if you have like a trauma disorder like PTSD, or if you have another anxiety disorder where you get sort of big anxious flare-ups of things, it like takes over your perspective. When you're afraid, you like gotta know what's happening.
Do you think, sorry
Um,
to interrupt you, but is would you
no,
consider
please do so.
autism to be one of those things that like can cause anxiety flare-ups?
Sure, yeah, that's a great pivot. So specifically on the intersection of autism and OCD. So I forget the exact statistics, but autistic and otherwise neurodivergent people have a very, very high rate of anxiety disorders in general. It's many double digits percentages of autistic people. Both, there's studies that say this, and just anecdotally, just talking to clients, talking to my friends. Um, and I think there's a lot of reasons for that. I think that autistic people often are sort of afraid of getting things wrong, whether it's socially, whether it's academically, whether it's professionally or somehow personally in other ways. Oh, I have to get this thing right. I have to get this thing right. Um, there's also a subtext of, well, other people know something that I don't know, and I'm always at risk of doing something and not knowing that I'm doing something wrong.
That hits home for me. That's so
Yeah,
incredibly relatable.
yeah, I think that is an experience a lot of autistic people have, for whom you put a lot of stock into trying your best to predict that, to predict what could I possibly be doing wrong, even if I don't know that is a very ripe ground for your brain to start practicing obsessions and compulsions, right? So one of my heroes in OCD, someone who's a mentor of mine, is a mental health coach. I'd be happy to send out his YouTube channel. His YouTube channel is called Everybody Has a Brain. I included it in my newsletter piece, and he talks about how no matter what the like theme is of your OCD, like no matter what shape your obsessions and compulsions take, if you do anything in life that practices that formula of fear based on uncertainty, taking an action to try to fix the uncertainty, to try to fix your feelings to become safe. If you do that practice, no matter what it is, that primes you for having that response when you come across a triggering situation anywhere in your life that looks like anything, right? And so people's obsessions focus in on stuff that's very, very, very important to them. So if someone's like very religious, right? If someone is um like a Roman Catholic and they take being a Roman Catholic very seriously, it's their
Absolutely.
intense belief in the necessity of being a good Catholic that causes someone with OCD to be like, "Oh my god, what if I'm not a good enough Catholic? Like what if like, they're sitting in church and they have sudden sexual imagery about the priest looking in front of them, right? Someone for whom like having that belief isn't as big a deal might sort of have that thought and go, "Oh, that's a funny thought," and then it sort of goes away. But oh no, this thought means something. I have to fix this uncertainty of whether I'm a real good Catholic or not
And
in
gosh,
order to
like
be
in
safe.
that scenario, it's like the spiral of catastrophization is all the way down to
Yes.
like I will go to hell forever. Like
Yes.
which so
Yes.
I can see why that would be uh dismaying in that case for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And that yeah, exactly. That spiral of what if well, if that happens, then but then that'll happen. But what if that happens? But then that'll happen. That spiral that you described, no matter what the obsession is, you can always jump down from sort of a quote unquote silly trivial trigger down to a really core fear at sort of the center of the human experience, right? So another example of the spiral, right? Of like, oh, I'll go to hell, like you sort of an example I read in a book once. You're out at a restaurant and you bump into someone. Like, oh, oops, excuse me. You look down, you see they have a band-aid on. Your brain will go, "What if I got this person's blood on me? This is a stranger. Oh my god, I might get like HIV or like hepatitis C from this person. What if I got HIV? Then I would like get AIDS. What if I got AIDS? Then I'm gonna die of AIDS. Then if I die of AIDS, my family won't like have me to keep them safe anymore. And oh my god, I'm gonna insert tragedy that a person might think of passing away from like the AIDS virus, and that's just from bumping into someone at a restaurant, right? So something quote unquote trivial goes right to this like sort of rock fear that like that person might have. Um, and it's not just like medical things, like with the example with the Catholic like person, moral things. What if I'm a bad person? What if I'm, you know, I've seen things like I have to pick up the trash from the street. If I'm walking down the sidewalk and I see a piece of trash, I have to pick it up and throw it away. Because if I don't do that, if I walk past, I will be a bad person trademark.
So
Yeah, no, computer stuff happens.
yeah, computer stuff happens.
I can't hear you, Liv. I can see you moving, but there's no sound.
Well, how about now?
Right now, yes.
Yeah, I'm dang, that is unfortunate that that happened, but
Sure.
I'm
Are
hoping
we still streaming, Liv?
it looks like it's set. Did it just fucking Oh, I hope
I
so.
can't see whether we're streaming or not. I've just been gently talking as if we're still streaming.
I think it's I don't know. Hey,
I will ask
leave a
our
comment
colleagues.
in the stream chat if you're still there and can hear me now. BC buffering. Yeah. That's true. That's true. Um you're back. Okay. Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it. Hey, we're back. Um awesome.
Great.
So Bob, I think we left off you were talking about crap. Sorry. My brain's drawing a blank because I like panicked for a sec.
Totally.
Um but feel free to continue. Um
Yeah, I don't know where I left off when the stream cut out, if the
no
stream did cut out
worries.
for the audience. But
Well
basically,
go ahead.
sure, basically OCD is when you have very core fears that get triggered very instantly when something seemingly minor happens. And because you have such a strong intolerance of uncertainty, you have to fix the cause of the triggering feeling, or else you believe that the spiral, like worst possible outcome will happen to you. Whether it's like, I'm going to go to hell, whether it's I'm going to die, whether it's everyone's going to hate me. So I think
Ooh,
right
so I
before the
have that
chat
one a
ended,
lot, and I wanted to actually use it as a bit of a segue because I find that at least a lot of my friends, colleagues, and clients that I talk to who are on the spectrum find that uh, not a lot of people liking me to be a pretty significant fear that is often then
Mhm.
actually just confirmed by everyday life. Um, Whether that be because of missing social cues, or not missing,
Mhm.
but just like having different expectations for social cues, um,
Yeah.
and or like not being able to mask well enough to somebody's
Mhm.
uh, what's to somebody's standards. Um,
Mhm.
and So would you say that, like, given a situation like that, where the fear can be um, confirmed for some folks, um, do you
Mm.
think that it may that in that sense, like, do does would autism and OCD kind of like fuel each other in a way? Um,
Oh, I would say so, 100%.
yeah, for sure, for sure.
So so, like I was saying earlier in the stream, that sort of fear of what am I doing wrong? Um, I'm at constant risk of being ostracized and expelled from my community. That sort of general fear, which can be rooted in like childhood, right? Um, it's a totally ripe breeding ground in your brain for patterns of relationships with fear and like pain and trauma of, oh, I'm feeling this thing, this risk of something that could happen, and I don't know if it's going to happen or not, and I don't know if I'm responsible for it or not. I have to do everything to be totally sure that I'm not responsible for this thing, to fix this thing before anything goes wrong. And because of sort of the pattern of OCD, what happens is that when you do it, when you do the compulsion, your brain, instead of going, oh, everything's great now, right? Like everything's wonderful now. I don't need to be afraid anymore. What brains like to do is they go, oh, you're safe because you did the compulsion. Let's make you even safer by making up a completely detached from reality, even bigger trigger so that you can become even safer by fixing that one. Right? That's just how brains work. And so it it behaves almost like a substance abuse problem. That's something that's a metaphor I used in my newsletter piece is that, when you have a substance abuse problem, you have by and large a a a difficult relationship feeling things, whether it's feeling trauma, whether it's feeling anger, whether it's feeling sadness, right? If you haven't been taught how to feel things, you try to either replace bad feelings that you can't control with bad feelings that you believe you can control, like with substance abuse, or you try to replace bad feelings you can't control with attempts to control the bad feelings over and over and over and over again until it takes up enormous amounts of your time and your energy, like with OCD, right? A compulsion is scratching away at the uncertainty because the uncertainty is attached to those deep core fear beliefs that I had mentioned earlier. And it becomes debilitating when you you spend like all of your time doing that internally or externally, right? Like before I was 22, I thought, oh, OCD, you're washing your hands all the time and that's what's going on. But what's going on is that you're trying to fix feelings. So there's external compulsions like washing your hands or checking this to see if the stove is off. But there's also internal compulsions. There's like, oh my God, what if I said that thing? And if I said that thing, then people are going to hate me and they're going to delete me on social media and everyone's going to hate me. And after everyone hates me, I'll never have friends ever again. And I'll be all alone and I'll just die all alone. Right. And so you're checking, oh, did I say that thing? Oh, did that thing happen? Oh, did I accidentally, if I'm driving and I hit a pothole, oh, was that actually a small child? How do I know that that pothole wasn't a small child? Because if I hit that small child, I'm gonna, be arrested and go to prison and be taken away from everything I love and my life is over. I have to absolutely make sure that wasn't a small child. So someone with that is gonna go back and see, and they're like, "Oh, but what if the small child, like, was hit and then, like, ran away and is injured?" I have to check to make sure that it didn't happen. So, like, it's really intense. When you get triggered like that, when it's, like, deep in your spinal cord like that, intense imagery and beliefs come up. You like, like, if you hit a pothole, realistically, right, the chances of it being a small child and you not knowing it is less than 1%. But in that moment, it is 50% or higher, and you have to make sure. And like rational reasonableness is gone when you're like in an episode because for your body, like this is life or death. I have to do this right now. Um,
For sure. Yeah.
gosh, I'm talking a lot. I'm talking a lot.
No, you're fine.
Uh,
I actually had a follow-up question for you because I
totally.
really like how you described it um, with essentially like battling something akin to a substance abuse problem.
Oh yeah.
So I wanted to ask you of like if you could share how one can come to manage such feelings like this, maybe how you did
Yes.
that if you're comfortable sharing. Um,
Yes. 100%.
and if you have time within that description, I would love to also know, um, because since you have experience with both, um, how did you come to realize which parts of your parts of your brain were coming from OCD and which ones were coming from autism? Or if that answer
Yes.
can't be questioned, or sorry, if
Mhm.
that question can't be answered, um, that's also fine because you are but one brain and have all of that together.
Yeah.
So how do you
I'm actually gonna
go ahead, you're talking.
I'm gonna jump right into that question first because I have an answer for that one right away. So, what's the difference between autism and OCD? Autism for me is fundamentally neutral. It is a neutral fact about me. It's like the color of my hair. It's like the shape of my hands and the shape of my face. It's like the size of my shoes. It's just there. It's just there. The suffering in my life that comes from being autistic has to do with misalignment with neurotypical expectations. And then my own internalized ableism, criticizing myself, berating myself, messages about how inadequate I am, whatever, in reaction to that misalignment. And so because autism is fundamentally neutral, all kinds of things in my life that are really beautiful are also autistic, right? So bad things in my life are size 12 shoes, and wonderful things in my life are also size 12 shoes because size 12 shoes is just a neutral thing that's like there, right? So there are very difficult things in my life that are like autistic because I'm autistic and like difficult moments are in my life are lived autistically, and really beautiful, profound, wonderful moments in my life are autistic and lived autistically. Ways I expressed myself, autistic joy. We once had a live stream about autistic joy. Um, Autism is neutral, and all of the tapestry of emotions and experiences in my life are autistic. OCD is it is neurodivergence because people in OCD or in any other anxiety disorder, excuse me, diverge from a neurotypical standard in the way that autism is also neurodivergence. And in my opinion, OCD very clearly is an illness. My life is better because of the recovery I've had from OCD. Um, I do not wish untreated OCD on anyone. It's awful. My worst episode was 3 straight months, 24 hours a day. So where I'm at in my recovery now is I'll have an episode that lasts 30 to 60 minutes, like once a month. 5 years ago, it was like 2 days, like twice a month. And then like 6, 7, 8 years ago, it would be, oh, I'm in an episode for 2 weeks. Then I'm like not in an episode. Now I'm in an episode for 4 days. Now I'm not. Oh, now I'm in an episode for 3 weeks. Like just all the time. And like I just said, my longest one was 3 straight months, morning, noon, and night. Like
If you don't mind me
it was
asking, what
happening
was
while
that
I was
like?
asleep.
Like, it,
It was
what?
awful.
I'm sure, yeah. But like for 3 straight months, what does one
Yes.
do with oneself during an episode for three straight
I
months?
I was in a job that was not here at A&E. Um, I did all the stuff. I got up, I went to that job, I came home, I scrolled on social media, I talked to friends, and in the background in my head was what if XYZ, I don't want to be too specific here on a live stream, but like what if XYZ thing is true, right? I have to know if XYZ thing is true or else catastrophe.
So, to
Like
somebody who
24
may
hours
not
a day.
know what's going on, this could be a very invisible thing to, like, you know,
Yes.
like it could be a very like inward,
Yes.
destructive kind of thing. Yeah.
Yes, very much. No, my family didn't like know what I was going through. I didn't talk about it.
Did you know what you were going through
Yes.
at the time?
Well,
Okay.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, and no, because I was seeing my therapist. Like I knew, like, oh, that's what's happening, but I didn't really believe that like everything was okay. I really did sort of half believe that I needed to fix the thing I was worried about, versus like, oh no, just like let it go, like just don't do anything, like set down um the tools, like just like drop the questioning. I did believe that my safety had to do with fixing that question that I had, that set of experiences. That's where I was in my recovery journey at that time, those years ago.
So you're when you're having an episode, whether it's three
Yeah,
months or like only a little bit,
yeah,
and
yeah,
you have to and you focus all of your energy inward like that, where say your
yes,
parents don't even know, would you consider that a form of masking?
sure. It's not the same as autistic masking,
That is what
but
was my next question was going to be. How would you differentiate the two?
sure. Mm, I mean, I guess it's masking. I mean, masking for me is sort of a broad, like for autism, it's like a very broad, like I must present as neurotypical in the way I speak, in the way I walk, in the way I move, in the way I order words, in the way I present, like all like this huge comprehensive thing. Whereas like masking OCD is like a very singular, oh, I'm hiding a mental illness, which is tied into all kinds of stuff. It's tied into the male gender conditioning that I have. It's tied into um narratives about, oh, I can't be weak and vulnerable. Oh, I have to, I can't be in pain because like I have to just do things anyway, because like life, you have to just do things even if you're hurting. Like sort of those narratives. Um, I guess it's masking, but I've considered that less comprehensive than like autistic masking.
That makes entire sense for sure.
Yeah,
I liked how you described that, like with autistic masking, like there's this whole like breadth of stuff that you have to do.
yeah,
Like I think most of us understand. I think most of us who are watching are autistic ourselves. That masking when it comes to autism is attempting to like fit in and be um, like be
palatable.
right, exactly. But versus like an OCD masking, like whether that's even an appropriate term for it or not, um, is more of just like I am managing something that like I know is like that I need to manage, as opposed to like I'm doing
Yes.
this like um, begrudgingly because I have to. It's like no, I know I'm managing something that needs to be managed right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah. either appropriately or inappropriately. Like when I was just
Yes.
suffering and hiding it from everyone, that was like not healthy. Um, but yeah, like much less comprehensive compared to autistic masking.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now you've described a lot of like how you used to be in the past, and
Yes.
it's like it sounds like, and I've known you for quite a bit of time too, so like I've like
Mhm.
been able to see all of this um, these cool ways of thinking and management methods that you've adopted over the years, and
Mhm.
I um, I just think that that's so awesome. And so if you wouldn't mind sharing with everybody, um, like what um, how did I phrase this? It's oh yeah, what supports and resources have been
Yes.
helpful to you to get you where you are now?
Yes. So I have been in therapy and have worked with my therapist for a very long time. That's a big important factor. I give a lot of credit to the guy named Mark Freeman who has this YouTube channel. Everybody Has a Brain. Back when I first was diagnosed, I would find very sort of secretive, scared Reddit comments or Quora questions and stuff where people are like, "Oh my god, like I'm thinking of all this stuff. How do I know how do I know I'm not secretly a serial killer? Like, how do I know I didn't I'm not going to turn into a serial killer? Or seriously, or like really intense stuff with hurting children or hurting animals or whatever. And, it's like, oh, like, it's not real. It's not real. How do I know it's not real? Whereas this guy, Mark Freeman, it's very silly and very sort of like, oh, yep, you have a brain. Like, everybody has a brain. Like, yeah, it's about feelings and it's about like your relationship to doubt and it's about your relationship with your goals and your values. So the original question you said was like, what are coping strategies? So I I would say there's three big ones that I apply on a daily basis. So the first and most important one, when I was like in episode world and like all the time, the first and most important skill I had was recognize how to do what's called diffusion practices. So diffusion, that would be DE apostrophe FUSION. So like the opposite of fusing. Because when you're in a state of fusion, your body's situation that's going on of like, oh, I'm having a trauma episode, I'm triggered, stuff's happening. There's all kinds of crazy imagery in my head about things that are going to happen to me or things that could happen to me. If you're in a state of fusion, you believe it 100%, and that's just what's happening for you, right? Like
Yeah, that makes
you're
sense.
surfing the internet and like, oh, what if this thing's happening? If you're in a state of fusion, you're just in fight or flight mode and you have to fix it right now or else you're in immediate danger. And so you start googling stuff. Something I mentioned in the newsletter is that before I like took treatment seriously, the subjects of my obsessions, I would Google like 50 pages worth of stuff on Google. And then inevitably, when I did that again, those 50 pages, all the links would be purple because I'd already done that. Like, that's an experience I think a lot of people with OCD can relate to, if there's any here in the audience. So, what did I say? Diffusion exercises. So, diffusion is recognizing that when your body is having an experience, that the fact that your body is having an experience is real and not that your body's having an experience means that the thing you're envisioning is real, right? So before it would be, oh my God, I'm having this crazy mental image of X. Because I'm having a crazy mental image of X, that means it's real. And I have to do something about it.
Gotcha.
That was the formula before. Diffusion was, oh man, I'm here in the library or on the bus or in bed on my phone or whatever. And this crazy thing just came up. My chest feels tight. Like big images and body sensations and memories and urges and stuff is here in my body right now. And it's there in the context of I'm here in bed scrolling on my phone. It's here in the context of, oh, I'm here on the bus as well.
Mhm.
Right. So that sort of ties into like mindfulness and being aware of your body and your surroundings,
Sure.
but recognizing that thoughts are thoughts, right? Because if you're in fusion, it's like, oh, I'm on the bus, I'm heading to this appointment, and it's like, oh my God, I have to know if I checked the stove or else I'm going to go to prison for the rest of my life. Then suddenly you're not going to your appointment anymore. You're preventing going to prison for the rest of your life by remembering if you turn to the stove off, which you spend like an hour doing. Right. So that's if you're in fusion. If you're in defusion, it's, oh, I'm on the bus and I'm going to my appointment. Oh man, my body's doing some crazy stuff. My body is flooding me with imagery of me being in prison. My brain is flooding me with sort of the pain of never speaking to my family ever again, like whatever, right? Oh, damn, that's a crazy thing for my body to be doing right now while I'm on the bus going to the appointment. And then you stick to the scaffolding of what you had planned on doing that day instead of diverting from,
Interesting. So
yeah,
is that so that's to say that like you can validate that you are indeed having this thought, but it
you
also
have to do that. You have to do that or else you're not going to be okay.
right. But then it sounds like you also are able to limit it to like that's a thought that I'm having, but that's
Yes.
also just a thought that I'm having. Like it's not
Yes.
necessarily happening.
Yes. That is the treatment. What you just said, that sentence right there.
Heard. Hell
So
yeah.
a lot of people here in the audience are familiar with the feeling of you're talking to someone who's like holding a baby, right? And you look at the baby and you're like, oh my God, it's a baby. And then your brain just suddenly goes, what if you threw the baby off the bridge?
Ah! Intrusive thoughts,
Everyone has that thought.
yo.
No. Like that's an evolutionary thing, by the way, because you have that moment and you sort of have the reaction, oh no, I have to not throw the baby off the bridge. So then you're like less likely to throw the baby off the bridge. But it's an
Fascinating.
evolutionary
Oh,
thing.
wild. Okay.
But everyone has thoughts like that. But if you believed that the presence of that experience meant that you were more likely to throw the baby off the bridge, then you would avoid the baby. Seeing babies would then be like, oh my God, if I'm near a baby, I'm going to throw a baby off a bridge. And I have to do everything in my life to limit opportunities where I could be around babies. And then suddenly your life is smaller because you're avoiding things that trigger you, right? So just pivoting back to the thing I was saying before. So defusion, like you were just saying, Liv, yes, I am feeling these things. They're happening. And I'm still going to do the thing I was just doing before I got triggered. I can do the thing I was going to do while being triggered. It
So
can be in the background.
that that's really cool
Mm-hmm.
because like
Yeah.
I feel like that's undoing the notion that you were describing earlier where it's
Yes.
like if you like indulge like the thought and then you go and check and like that takes up time and blah blah blah, that just reinforces it over time. but
Yes.
but if you
Your
acknowledge it and then
brain makes up
continue on the
more. So,
path,
yes.
then that is then doing the opposite of being actually proving that like, oh, if I don't do it, I'm still perfectly safe and I saved all
Yes.
this time. Like,
Yes. Yes. That is the treatment. That is the treatment. That is acceptance and commitment therapy. And that is cognitive behavioral therapy for OCD. What you just described.
that's so right.
Um,
Hell yeah, very
Yeah,
cool.
and the thing is, if you do the compulsions, your brain literally gets addicted, like substance abuse again, literally gets addicted to sort of the dopamine of, oh my God, I'm safe now because I did this thing. I'm safe now because I did the compulsion thing. Oh,
Right,
let's make you feel even safer by scaring you again so that you become safe again.
right. Yeah,
Right?
that
So your brain just makes it up over and over and over again. Yeah.
interest. Oh, the dopamine hit of being safe is. Oh
Yes.
my god,
Yes.
dude. Dude,
Yes.
screw drugs. Brain makes your own drugs. That's.
Yes. Yes,
uh,
and it's your relationship with doubt and safety and your relationship with your emotions. Because if you have an
right.
emotion that you don't want, you're going to try to fix your internal environment or your external environment to not have that emotion. Very, very, very similar to substance abuse.
Interesting. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so just to jump back, so there were three things that helped me. So the first one was the defusion exercise that I just talked about, right? like defusing. Um, the second one that's I think equally important is sort of changing what Mark Freeman calls like the engine of your life, like the fuel of your life. So if you're like really deep in OCD world or like an anxiety disorder world, the thing guiding your choices and your actions is fear and fixing fear. So if you're in an OCD episode, the thing guiding your decisions is, oh my God, I'm so triggered. I have to do something to make me not afraid right now. That's the engine of your choices. That's why you were doing the choices that you're doing. Whereas if you change the fuel of your life to, oh, what do I want to do in life? What are the
So
values that I care about?
that's so cool because like you often hear people say like choose life and like what does that mean? But like in this case that has a very specific connotation.
Yes. Yeah. So sort of changing the fuel of your life. And the third thing, which I think is dovetails in with these two concepts of diffusion and changing the fuel of your life, is instead of practicing how to not feel things, practice how to feel things. So what that means is that any anxiety disorder is you being very very good at the process, the energy intensive process of you trying to not feel things, which is impossible. Feelings just happen. Like if you walk around saying I'm never going to get a trauma trigger, it's not going to happen. Like it's just a thing that's going to happen to you.
In the words
Oh,
of
oh, I've
one
never.
of my favorite artists, Cell Dweller, it is only just a matter of
Yeah.
time.
No, but like
Anyway,
if oh, I'm never going to be sad. I'm going to avoid anything in life that'll ever make me sad. Oh, I'm never going to get angry. I'm going to avoid everything in life that'll ever make me angry. That it's impossible. And the more you try to do that, if you live a life where avoiding your feelings and trying to not feel things, if that's what you're doing with life, your life shrinks down into a box where the walls of the box are where you get triggered and you become emotionally malnourished, you become miserable, you don't do the things in life that you want to do. And you start to believe, oh, I can't do those things that I want to do. Right? So instead of practicing not feeling things, right? The goal is to practice feeling things. So you're changing, once again, you're changing the engine of why you do what you do from reacting to fear to um to your goals and your values. And again, all this language comes from this guy named Mark Freeman, who I love. Anyway, um, so you're doing life based on your goals and your values, and you're choosing goals and values while practicing how to feel things. So if you have a goal of, oh, I want to play that new instrument, that new musical instrument. I want to learn how to play the electric guitar. But oh my goodness, I'm an adult in my 30s and I've never picked one up before. It's too late for me, right?
good lord, the amount of times I've heard that actually verbatim. Anyway,
Yeah.
continue.
Yeah. What you do in that situation is you have a goal and a value of, oh, I value being creative. I value exploring all these dreams of mine that I want. And that's an avenue for them. And oh, I can practice the skill of feeling embarrassed. I can practice the skill of feeling inadequate. Going back to autism, that's a core thing. I'm inadequate. What if I'm inadequate? I can practice the skill of feeling awkward. I can practice other people seeing that I'm bad at doing something if I'm brand new, right? So you can practice learning how to feel things. And if you do that enough times, you're like, Yeah, I kick ass at feeling embarrassed. I kick ass at feeling anxious. I kick ass at feeling triggered with my trauma stuff. I kick ass at feeling like everyone sees me as inadequate. I know that feeling. I feel that all the time, and I know how to feel that. I don't have to have a life where avoiding that feeling guides all of my decisions,
The part of
right?
that that struck me was I know how to feel that. That makes
Yes.
entire sense to me.
Yes. When you have an anxiety disorder, what you practice is living a life where you don't have to feel triggered, where you don't have to feel feelings that you label as dangerous.
That makes
And what ends
entire
up happening is
sense.
your life shrinks down and you're miserable.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
the goal is to just do the things in life that you want to do while practicing feeling the feelings that will come up when you do that. And your life
Yep.
changes and it's fucking great.
Hell
It's
yeah.
freaking great. Yeah.
I think we are allowed to cuss on the stream anyway, so it's okay.
Okay.
But
All right. Do you have
but
any other? I know I'm taking up some verbal
no,
time here,
no,
but
you're great, man. Don't worry about it. So I did have one more question, but there was one in the chat that I'd love for us to address.
super.
Molly had asked because you had made a comment about learned masculinity playing a part in your OCD. So do gender norms have a lot to do with the feelings around or the management process around feeling OCD?
Um, I think. Well, I mean, first of all, I think gender norms have to do with every aspect of everyone's mental health because they're sort of so integrated in everything. And on that specific point, I don't think that gender norms explicitly have to do with like the mechanics of OCD or the mechanics of reacting to emotions. But what it did have to do with was my the flavor of my hiding that I needed help. So my gender socialization combined with my autistic childhood mixed with I can't be seen needing help because my worth comes from my independence and proving that I'm independent. So like very, very like autism heavy combined with masculine
Yeah, I
norm
see how that
stuff.
works. So it's like
Yeah,
when you have these masculine norms to have to adhere to, you might think something like, "Oh, well, if I don't like get like a breadwinning job, then I'll never be able to provide a house for my future family. And if that's the case, then we're all gonna live in squalor, and our kids will
yeah,
go to like have to like play in the filthy streets, and one of them's gonna get cholera and die." Kind of biz. Like
yeah. Sure. I mean,
sorry, it's not really my
I,
spiral to speak on there. I
oh,
apologize if that
totally.
was
No, and
misconstrued.
that's totally what it would. I think it would look like to someone. I think that the
Okay.
actual like relationship between a person, their brain, their emotions and feelings, I think that goes beyond gender. But I was talking specifically about like hiding that I needed help. That came
I
from
see.
a
Yeah,
masculine
that makes
place.
entire
Yeah,
sense for sure.
yeah. Mm.
So there is one more thing that I would like to ask before we wrap up,
Super.
and I'm aware that this might be hard to keep concise, but
Oof.
the question is, if there is one thing that
Hmm.
um, ooh, I just got a text complimenting me on the guitar riffs. I didn't realize I was actually making the sound into the stream. So free concert, everybody. Um,
Yeah.
anyway, I didn't mean to do that. The question I wanted to ask though was if there is one thing that somebody could take away about um, having autism and OCD from this stream,
Yes.
if you could just leave everybody with a parting comment, what would it be?
Sure. So, in order to condense it to be concise, I'm going to take a few breaths and sort of let it distill like those snow globe things. So, I'm going to do that. So, a parting thing about autism and OCD. If you are autistic, it makes complete sense that you were taught to be hyper vigilant about being safe, whether it was adequate, whether it was enough, whatever it was. It also makes sense that continuously practicing that hypervigilance, that mistrust of yourself, that sense that you're like an incompetent employee who you have to be the boss of to protect yourself from, that sort of feeling that a lot of autistic people experience. It makes sense that practicing those things over and over and over again for years can turn into an anxiety disorder called OCD, whose hallmark experience is you have a presence of uncertainty attached to very strong nervous system deep levels of fear and beliefs about safety, and with a pattern that you have to fix the uncertainty to be safe, that then can turn into a brain situation where you get a dopamine hit from, oh, I fixed the problem. And then your brain says, oh, I'll make you feel safer again by giving that problem to you again so you can fix it again. Makes sense.
That's a
Your
wonderful
experiences make
insight.
sense everywhere. Mhm.
Yeah, thank you for that. Um, and with that, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Um, Thanks for everybody for staying with us. This was really really insightful. And Bob, thank you so much for all of your incredible insights and empathy and just methods and structures as to how to go about just existing with autism and OCD. That was very cool. And thank you for
Sure.
your time
Thank
being
you.
here tonight.
No problem. Thank you so much, Liv. Thank you so much for hosting the live stream.
Of course, yeah. Um, Once again, we at A&E, we're an organization that provides services to autistic folks, their families, and the folks and professionals that support them. We have a link in the description to learn more. Next month's live stream has to do with Pride, baby. And I actually will not be hosting it that time because my band is going to be on tour. Um, and our lovely and amazing Jay Evenson Eagler will be hosting that one. They are the coolest, and I you do, you're in great hands for um, the AANE live stream having to do with Pride Month. Um, and then we're actually going to take a break in July, so there's going to be no live stream in July. So we'll resume in August talking about traveling while autistic, and I will be what is it? Hosting that one again, and I'll have lots of stories from tour, from my band's tour, to talk about um, traveling while autistic. Um, so with that, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Y'all have been great. My name's Liv. That's Bob, and feel free to find us both at AA&E doing a whole bunch of other cool stuff. Have a nice night.
Totally. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye.